tractor driver fell asleep at the wheel and flew off the edge of the earth. Experts remind us of safety rules in the fields. Low-cost airlines saved on fuel and almost took the plane over the edge of the disc. Blogger climbed over the ice wall fence for likes and disappeared into the abyss. Fisherman broke through the ban and swam to the end of the ocean. The water doesn't flow anywhere. Ice gets in the way. Football scandal. Ball flies over the edge of the world after penalty kick. Match impossible to finish.
That's what news headlines could sound like if we really lived on a giant cosmic pizza. By the way, I have to admit, for 4 years I was a follower of the flat earth theory, and then I turned 5. So yeah, I do know a thing or two about the flat earth. My name is Victor, and let's start from the very beginning. But first, a little interactive moment. Write your answer in the comments to this question. How long do you think people have known for sure that the earth is not flat? Hit pause, type your answer, and I'll wait a few seconds. Okay, let's continue. In March 2018, a 62-year-old American, Mike Hughes, also known as Mad Mike, decided to do something most of us wouldn't even dare to imagine. He built a homemade steam rocket and launched it into the sky over the Mojave Desert in California. In about a minute, this strange contraption lifted him on a height of around 570 meters. Then the rocket slammed back into the desert, but Hughes somehow survived. A few bruises, adrenaline off the charts, and our hero happily tells reporters that everything went successfully. For most people, that would be the moment of, okay, I'm never doing that again. But not for him. Mike in general had a very movie-like biography. He used to be a limo driver, then retrained as a stuntman, daredevil and inventor. He set records, dreamed of running for governor of California, and believed that one day, with the help of his metal monsters, he would actually reach space. People called him a dreamer, a visionary, and of course, crazy. He honestly earned the nickname Mad Mike. But the weirdest part was why he did all this. In 2017, Hughes publicly said that, in his opinion, the Earth is not a ball, but a flat plate.
Do I believe that? Yes. Do I know it for sure? No. That's exactly why I want to get into space,
he said. This was heard not just by random viewers, but by a very specific audience. Flat Earth supporters. They organized a fundraiser and donated $7,500 for a new rocket. That was enough to send Mad Mike on his first test flight over Mojave. He saw it only as a training. Then he wanted to rise several kilometers up with a hot air balloon, and from there launch a rocket towards the truth, to see the shape of the Earth with his own eyes. But there was no Hollywood-style ending. On February 22nd, 2020, near Barstow, California, his next homemade rocket took off, and the parachute that was supposed to give him a soft landing detached almost right and launched. The craft fell back down with the pilot still inside. Hughes died on the spot. In obituaries, they wrote that he died chasing his dream, doing that he loved most. After his death, his friends began to say that maybe Mike wasn't even a sincere flat earther and simply used the topic to raise money for his crazy project. Whether that's true or not, we'll never know. But his story shows something very important. Conspiracy theories are not always just memes on the internet. Sometimes they cost people money, relationships, mental health, and sometimes their life.
He died living out his dream.
Are there many flat earthers today? If you judge only by comments on the internet, it may seem like half the planet is sure that we live not on a globe, but on a giant pancake covered by a dome. But let's cool down a bit and look at the real numbers. In 2018, a large research company surveyed more than 8,000 people. They were selected so they would represent the adult population. The result came out roughly like this. 84% of respondents said they have always believed the Earth is round. 5% said they have always believed the Earth is a sphere. but recently start to doubt a little. 2% said they used to believe in a flat Earth, but now they are unsure. 2% are firmly convinced the Earth is flat. Another 7% gave some fuzzy answer, like I'm not sure. If you simplify all this, you get something like a bit more than 1 in 10 people you see on the street either doubts or openly isn't sure that the Earth is a globe. Honestly, that idea is a bit creepy. And that's not counting those who just watch flat Earth videos for fun, but then suddenly stop laughing and start nodding. What if? There are quite a lot of such cases too. In one study, most active flat earthers admitted that just a few years earlier they were sure the planet is a sphere, but changed their minds after watching TikTok videos. Where did the modern flat Earth movement come from? If you think it all started in the Middle Ages, there everyone suddenly believed in a disk, no, that's a separate myth we'll come back to later. The modern organized flat Earth starts in the 20th century. In England, there lived a charismatic religious fundamentalist named Samuel Rowbotham. He believed what the Bible is a literally accurate description of how the world is built. And if it says circle and ends of the Earth, then is not a sphere, but a disk. Rowbotham did public experiments trying to prove that the Earth's surface is not curved. Often these experiments were set up in such a way that the results were easy to interpret wrongly. Then he took the pseudonym Parallax and wrote the book Zetetic Astronomy, Earth Not a Globe. The essence of his approach was very simple and very familiar to modern conspiracy fans. Don't trust math, measurements, models. Trust only your own senses. You look at the horizon. It's flat, right? Flat. So the Earth is flat. Checkmate science. After his death, his followers created the Universal Zetetic Society. They mocked astronomy, evolution, and invented alternative models, from an Earth disk to an Earth cube. Over time, Rowbotham's ideas migrated to US and took root there. In the 20th century, the movement almost disappeared, then came back again. In the 1950s, Samuel Shenton revived the idea in Britain and created the Flat Earth Society. Then, in 1970s, Charles Kenny Johnson took over and grew the club to several thousand members. He actually sent out information bulletins explaining that sunrises and sunsets are optical illusion, the moon landing is a staged show in a hangar, and the main source of lies is NASA, and the goal of scientists is to turn science into a new religion. Then interest faded again, and the number of members dropped to barely 100. But in 2004, Daniel Shenton appeared, launching a forum and then the Flat Earth Society website. On top of this old idea came a new reality: YouTube, social networks, recommendation algorithms. And already in 2018, one of the Flat Earth conferences in Denver gathered about 800 people, while a few years earlier a similar event in Sheffield had 3. Today, they have their own internal churches, their own splits, their own rebel factions who accuse the old leaders of betrayal, working for the system and bribing scientists. So it's no longer just a joke, but a full-fledged subculture with its own mythology. Let's look at the top 3 favorite proofs of the flat Earth and what's wrong with them. No curvature. Flat Earth supporters often say that then you look across long distance, over the sea, a lake, or from an airplane, you don't see any Earth curvature. Their argument: according to basic geometry, objects far away should start to disappear behind the curve after 10 to 20 kilometers. But flat earthers use powerful zoom cameras to film distant objects, like lighthouses or oil platforms, and claim,
"We can still see them clearly, so the Earth can't be round."
scientifically, objects do disappear behind the horizon, then they appear again with zoom, it's because of atmospheric refraction, light bending in warm or uneven air layers. This bending lifts the image slightly above the horizon, making it look like the object never went below the curve. Denial of gravity. Flat earthers often reject gravity as science describes it. Their argument, instead of force pulling objects down, they claim the Earth is a flat disk constantly accelerating upward at 9.8 meters per square centimeter, an idea called the universal acceleration. Another version says it's simply density and buoyancy. Heavier things fall, lighter things rise. Scientific reply: gravity is not just falling. It explains how planets orbit the Sun, why we have tides, and how objects behave in space. Without gravity as a real force caused by mass, none of these phenomena make sense. The Antarctic ice wall. Flat earthers also offer a completely different map of the world, and they say that no one has ever been further than this glacier. Their argument: they use an azimuthal equidistant map. There, the Earth is a flat disk with the North Pole in the center. Instead of South Pole, they claim a massive ice wall, Antarctica, surrounds the entire edge of the disk and keeps the oceans from spilling out. Scientific reply: airplane routes, circumnavigation, and GPS all confirm that Earth is spherical. Flat Earth models also require the Sun and Moon to be much smaller and much closer than we observe. If their model were true, sunlight would be visible everywhere at once, which obviously doesn't happen. These ideas are the main arguments in the Flat Earth community, but the scientific evidence strongly disproves them. How long we know that the Earth is not flat? At least from a scientific point of view. Knowledge about the spherical shape of the Earth appeared long before satellites, rockets, NASA, or any secret governments. Back in the 6th century BC, Pythagoras is traditionally considered one of the first who suggested that the Earth is a sphere. Back then, it was more of a philosophical guess. In the 4th century BC, Aristotle already gave specific arguments. When a person travels south, the new constellations rise higher in the sky. During a lunar eclipse, the Earth's shadow on the Moon is always round. Even a small change in the observer's position changes the pattern of the stars. From this, he concludes the Earth has the shape of a sphere, and this sphere is not that huge by cosmic standards. And Eratosthenes, chief librarian of the Library of Alexandria, took the next step. He didn't just say the Earth is a shape, he roughly measured its size. He knew that in the city of Sin, modern Aswan, on the day of the summer solstice at noon, the sun shines straight down into a deep well with no shadow. At the same time in Alexandria, a vertical stick casts a shadow at an angle about 7 degrees. 7 degrees is about 1/50th of a full circle. If the distance between the cities is about 1 part, then the Earth's circumference is 50 such parts. Eratosthenes hired professional measurers, demetists, who determined the distance between cities in steps. His result differs from the modern value by about 1 to 2%. For a person without satellites and laser rangefinders, that's crazy accurate. In the 2nd century BC, the first globe appeared, the model of the Earth as a ball. Basically, people finished the conceptual picture of the world long before anyone thought about rockets. Why do people believe in such things at all? Here we come back to psychology. The flat Earth is not just a bad grade in school physics. It's a way to feel special. Someone is unhappy with their life, job, status, no power, no influence, no big achievements. But one day they open YouTube or TikTok, watch a couple of videos, and suddenly get a new role. One of the chosen ones who knows the truth about the conspiracy of NASA Masons, governments, and scientists. Now they are not small person anymore, but the warrior of light, a fighter against the dark elite. They feel smarter than everyone around them. Everyone else are sheep who believe the TV, but they woken up. All their life failures can now be blamed not on their own decisions, but on the rotten system, Masons, Illuminati, whoever. A conspiracy theory gives 3 powerful bonuses. A simple explanation of a complicated world. No need to understand astrophysics, orbits, gravity. There is a simple scheme. They all lie, we are being fooled, the earth is flat and they are hiding it. A sense to being chosen. You immediately feel smarter than the majority. That really boosts self-esteem. A community. A person gets their own people. Chats, conferences, marathons, streams. Brothers in truth. It works like football fandom or a board game club. Just with an extra layer of we know the truth and they don't. That's why arguing with a convinced flat earther is almost pointless. They've already heard all the logical arguments, seen all the pictures. But the issue isn't logic. The issue is that this belief is part of their identity. To admit that the earth is a sphere means to admit that you held onto nonsense for years. That hurts. Right now, most experts agree. Belief in a flat earth is far from the scariest conspiracy theory. It's more funny and absurd than dangerous. Flat earthers don't really threaten society. They're more like an indicator that in the world of information noise, it's getting harder and harder for people to understand what to believe. And sometimes it feels like someone is already ready to believe that the earth stands under 3 elephants, standing on a giant turtle. Meanwhile, the earth, as always, calmly flies through space, almost a sphere, an imperfect geoid, but definitely not a plate. And no tractor driver has fallen off the edge yet. So please subscribe to Wikileaks, at least to know how to talk to fans of conspiracy theories. Bye.